Hello, my name is Isaiah Carter. Today, I would like to introduce you to a subject that I am very passionate about. This is the subject of groundwater pollution. Now, I'm not to say that I am passionate about polluting groundwater. However, I am passionate about the fact that our groundwater, water that lives in water tables below the surface, where we get approximately 80% of our drinking water, is being destroyed. It is being destroyed by human intervention through the additives of pollutants like pesticides and insecticides that were not designed to properly break down in nature, as well as what are known as PFAs. These are pre and polyfluoroalkyl substances. These are also known as forever chemicals. Now let's kind of break down what groundwater is, how it affects us. Groundwater is, as I said, water that lives in the water table or in large underground aquifers. It rests there until pulled up from the ground, usually filtered through gravel, sand, or the like. Now that gets rid of almost all pollutants, and we drink almost all of it. Now I'm sure most of us live in the city. We drink city water that has already been ran through systems and purified. But that water comes from these groundwater sources, whether it's directly pulled from the water table as with a well, or from an underground reservoir aquifer pulled directly. This groundwater gets polluted in a few different ways. One of the main ways is by runoff from large pesticide dumps. This is not to say when a farmer puts pesticide on his field that when it rains it runs off and becomes an issue. Rather, it is when the farmer or somebody who is not a farmer and is inexperienced dumps far too many pesticides, enough that it is essentially still liquid when the rain comes and washes it off. These PFAs stay with that water. These forever chemicals stay with the water as it passes through those substances that would normally filter it and enters the groundwater. That groundwater then flows into lakes, it flows into our wells, and it is pulled through the roots of plants into their budding bodies. Those are then eaten by deer, other herbivores, it's eaten by insects, and the PFAs enter their body. Then, when the circle of life happens and those herbivores are killed, their carnivores will then ingest tissue affected by these PFAs. In addition, when they die, decompose, the decomposers will eat the body, the scavengers will eat the body, and the chemicals will enter their systems. And what are we if not predators? In fact, in Michigan, there was a notice that at a certain lake, the PFA levels were so high that the fish in that lake were not allowed to be eaten or fed to any animals, given the extreme amounts of PFAs found in their tissue. Here in Washington, we have something a bit different. In a recent study, 411 wells in the Spokane area, practically our next door neighbors, they found that 283 of them contained PFAs that were to the level that were unsafe and unfit for human consumption. Now, that all sounds like a bunch of jargon, but let me explain what PFAs do to your body. PFAs, forever chemicals, do not break down in your body. They stay in your body. They lodge in your liver, your muscle tissue, and on occasion in the brain tissue. These PFAs, they can affect your immune system, they can affect your fertility, they can affect your risk of cancer, they can cause birth defects with children that you might have, they can cause all sorts of horrible health issues. They have been linked directly to many different kinds of cancer. Now, this hits somewhat home for me, as my aunt was in an area that was heavily affected by groundwater pollution, and after getting blood work done, they found that they were above what was considered the lethal limit not the lethal limit, the toxic limit for PFAs. That's heartbreaking to me and hits very close to home, as that's my family that's being affected. That's a big part of why I'm so passionate about this, because I've seen how it can affect people. Now, let me get to the second part and the second reason of why we have PFAs. Aerial application firefighting. The retardant that is used to fight fires contains vast amounts of these PFAS. Now, I would not say, and I think nobody would argue, that firefighting is not essential, that aerial firefighting is not essential. In fact, I work at the airport. I have worked in direct support fueling these large air tankers and watching them save people's lives, save their homes, save their livelihoods. However, it does come at this cost of these chemicals being in the groundwater, in the above ground water as well, for long periods of time and affecting people long after the fires are gone. But as I said, I firmly believe that they are necessary and that they save people. But I think that there's better ways that we can do this. Not with the firefighting, but what we can do. There's a quote by Vincent van Gogh that I think is very poignant in this situation. A great thing is the sum of many small things coming together. All that means, to me, is that we are small things. And working together, we can accomplish great things. In the same way, the issue of groundwater pollution, while a small issue overall, compared to the larger scheme of global pollution, can lead to larger things, can lead to larger changes. Part of the issue is that it's expensive. It doesn't make money, and politicians want to make money, regardless of which political side you fall on. Politicians are greedy, and I think we can all agree on that. The issue of groundwater pollution is not sensational in the way that other types are. It is tough, it is expensive to fix, but I believe that we working together can do it. We can, together, help to make a better way of cleaning up these spills, of ensuring that proper precautions are taken by farmers. Hell, it might be you volunteer at your local fire department so that you go out, you help fight a fire, so that the large air tankers don't have to be called. It might be that you volunteer to go out afterwards and wash out the retardant from these places that were dumped on. Something as small as your effort can save people's lives. It can save the environment around you. It can save the animals whose lives we are affecting. Together, we can accomplish great things, though we are small in ourselves. I urge you to look at small things, think of what you can do, and let them become a great thing. Thank you for your time.